This is the Castrol Konica entry number 11, Larry Perkins. Here's Mark Osler.
Yes, Wilco. Everything running to schedule at the moment. 120 litres of fuel, 4 tyres. Russell Ingall gets out, Larry in, and bang, 18 seconds. A fantastic stop from the Castrol Holden team.
Another fabulous stop. I mean, anything under 25 seconds is wonderful. 30 is acceptable. So to be sub 20 for 2 stops there, terrific timing, and it will help these fellows as the race unfolds. There's no doubt about that.
Car number 39, and that is the Commodore entry, Chris Smurden and Kevin Weeks. They also have a third driver entered, Adam Kaplan.
Some good boys from South Australia. Chris Smurden has put a lot of money into this team and run exceptionally well considering the number of years he's had behind the wheel.
18th position at the present time. This car built by Larry Perkins. So again, it's a vehicle one for nothing in terms of construction and preparation. Chris Smurden, 39 years of age. Co-driver Kevin Weeks is 46, and they've only previously had 1 start each in this race at Mount Panorama.
Well, we can't see him at the moment, but Greg Murphy will, speaking of seeing, here comes the Ford Credit car in, and busy getting Parsons getting the seatbelts off. The Clark, of course, warned the drivers, do not undo your seatbelts on Conrad. You will be penalized if you do. We'll be watching. We've got onboard cameras. We can see you. And certainly there, David Parsons doing the right thing, allowed to undo his belts as he's in the pit lane, not on the race circuit itself.
24th position. It's been a shocker of a day for Glenn Seaton and the number 30 Ford Credit entry after starting with such tremendous promise.
Well, there's Glenn. Looks like he's just getting in at a bus stop, waiting for someone to ask for the ticket. He's so calm behind the wheel. 60K out the pit straight, just getting his mic in place. He's got nothing to do but just hold onto the steering wheel. He's not racing yet. It really does seem painfully slow. It's an international regulation.
It's quite ironic. Quite ironic that Barry Seaton, Glenn's father, is building the engines now for Tony Longhurst, and Tony's car is going quite strong. Last year, Glenn, of course, missed out on winning in the last few laps of the race because of an engine problem.
Car 18, Shell FAI Falcon, Tommy Kendall is he getting out of the car? No, I don't think he is. AJ's there.
No, it's Wilco. Tommy Kendall is trying to get out of the car, but there's been some serious damage to the side of the car. You may be able to see it on the camera there.
Yes,
the door was badly damaged in that accident. That's why Stephen Johnson was reefing at it, trying to get it open. They did get it open now, so this the stop proceeding as scheduled. And 25 seconds is a fairly slow one, but they did have some trouble with that door. Hands raised. It's just gone 30 seconds, but they are having trouble with this driver's door. They might, yeah, they're running for the magic tape. Try and put a few strips on it to hold the door closed. No, they didn't have enough time. 38 seconds. Stephen Richards gets back in the race.
Well, that'll be one mechanic that'll get a reprimand tonight. That door was closed. He opened it, then couldn't get it closed. So I'm sure Dick will bring it to his attention that he didn't need to get overzealous trying to open a door that was already closed.
Stephen Johnson rejoins the race in 12th position. The race leader at the present time is Tony Longhurst, virtue of those pit stops that we've just had, or Stephen Ellery behind the wheel of car number 25, the Castrol Falcon. Second position, Craig Lowndes now back at the wheel of car number 1, the Mobil HRT entry. Then John Bow again behind the wheel of the car number 17, Shell FAI Falcon. Wayne Gardner driving number 7, the Coke Commodore in 4th position. Peter Brock behind the wheel of 05 in 5th. Car number 9, Klaus Nietzsche and Ken Douglas still holding down 6th. Then Stephen Johnson in 7th place in car number 18. Car number 11, the Castrol Konica entry of Larry Perkins, Russell Ingall in 8th spot. 9th spot, John Faulkner, Steve Harrington are in 9th, as I said. And Gary Walden and Mark Noske have moved up into the top 10 in the great race.
Yes, a terrific battle continues on Mount Panorama as we go into the 5th hour of the great race of 1996. The 4th hour of the race, well, it started with tail shaft problems for the number 50 NZ Commodore of Peter McLeod. He nursed his car back to the pits. Then the number 3 Lansvale Smash Repair Commodore of Steve Reed was also in the wars after coming to grief at Forest Elbow. Then it was drama for Russell Ingall. Russell, of course, beats the Castrol Commodore at Hell Corner, straight into the sand, but avoiding the wall. That brought out the pace car yet again, and more frenetic pit activity. Tony Longhurst having major problems, shutting the right rear door of his Castrol Ford after handing over to Steve Ellery. Come on, get it closed there, Tony. And away they go again. With the restart, Dick Johnson grabbed the lead, but almost took out teammate Tony Kendall in the process. The Tricky Dicky didn't have the lead all that long as Greg Murphy pounced as they headed up the mountain. Behind them, though, the frustration continued for others. Wayne Park having problems with the loose front wheel. And then, of course, Mark Scape was in the spin as he entered pit straight, much to the embarrassment in front of all those fans there. Scape continued in the race with no apparent problems to his vehicle. And then Ken Douglas had the luckiest escape of all. It's coming up right now. This is a classic as he headed down the dipper. So all the activity continuing here as we go into the 5th hour of the great race. And you at home who are watching it, a great chance to watch and win competition. Dial 1902 555 615. Then on command dial the number of the car that you think will win the Bathurst race of 96. Then leave your name and address and postcode. There's no limit to the number of calls or selections, but you've only got to 4:30 to get it all in. And the winner will receive a Holden Commodore VS SS valued at more than $45,000. The winner will be announced at the end of the telecast. Well, joining us now, one of the 7 network personalities in John Wood, Sergeant Tom Croydon of Mount Thomas Police Station. That's right. A little bit different Mount Thomas to Mount Panorama.
Very different. Only the police drive as fast as this at Mount Thomas.
John, the program's going wonderfully well, the top-rating police drama on Australian television.
It's doing extraordinarily well. It's, I mean, it's great to be in such a hit.
And how are you enjoying this today? It's a bit of a change of pace.
It's a lot of fun. This is my first visit. I've had my first fly in a DC-3 today and my first visit to Bathurst. It's been...
The spies told me many years ago you had a bit of interest in this.
Yeah, when I was young, I used to play with carburettors and things. I don't do any work on my own cars these days, but no, I used to go to the races at Sandown and things and watch Norm Beechey and Bob Jane in the old Mark II Jags. Norm Beechey was in
That
Holden's,
dates you a little bit, that budget.
Well, yeah, well, I am getting on a bit.
We all are. What about the race today? Plenty of drama. The rain tumbled down early. Saw the exit of a few key entrants in the race, but this is a wonderful battle looming here.
The start was amazing, wasn't it? We were watching it from the Channel 7 pavilion, and I mean, the cars just disappeared in the mist. Just, you know, off they went, just vanished. I thought,
and Alan Jones catching on fire. We've had everything.
Well, yes, we saw the smoke from where we were.
Yeah. What are your thoughts at this stage? A wonderful battle's looming.
Well, yeah, that's young Lowndes is pretty swift, isn't he?
Well, he's had a wonderful
great talent. Yeah. But I mean, this is the first time I've been to a motor race for probably 30-odd years, and I'm having a great time.
I suppose you're up there in the private box too, enjoying all this while we slave away here and in the commentary box.
That's right.
Well, if you're the top-rated show on the network, you can enjoy that. Enjoy the rest of the race. It's great to have your company. And have a safe trip back to Mount Thomas.
Thank you very much.
From Mount Thomas back to Mount Panorama. And Gary, that action continues.
Yeah, certainly does, David Fordham. Action aplenty as we pick up on lap 86, and Paul Romano just surviving an incident there as we pick up on the race leader. And yes, it is car number 1, the Mobile HRT car driven by Craig Lowndes, and there he is zipping past with consummate ease Stephen Ellery on the entry into Caltech's chase to assume command once more. And what a combination these two young men have made, Greg Murphy and Craig Lowndes.
There's no two ways about that, Gary. You don't get anywhere at Bathurst without a superb driver pairing. I don't know the circumstances under which Greg Murphy elected to leave his cocoon in New Zealand and come over to Australia and take on the big time, but he's done it well, and to his credit, he's maintained that car. He's given it over to Craig Lowndes in superb conditions, and Craig now out there belting you-know-what out of it, just as he knows he can.
Well, speaking of belting you-know-what out of it, Tommy Kendall belted some of it out of the number 18 Shell FAI Falcon too. Let's find out just how he went in his stint and exactly what happened there. He's with Mark Osler.
Yes, thanks, Gary. Tommy, you came into the pitch. You were trying to close the door. A bit of damage to the side of the bodywork. What happened there?
Well, that was on the in-lap. We were going to try to stretch it 4 or 5 more laps, which was critical to try to cut out that splash and go at the end. But right up at the top of the hill, I came up on a gaggle of cars, and the Komatsu car went around the outside of someone and lost it and came back, and I just almost got by him, but he T-bowed me, kind of landed on the right rear, right where the door closes. And so think the suspension's okay, but that made us pit 5 laps early. And what hurt us more was early on, we were kind of the guinea pig on whether to go on intermittents or slicks. And I guess if this really was the guinea pig, that one would have died. The experiment was a failure, but it worked because the 17 car made the right choice. But that's how we lost our lap. So keep plugging along, I guess. That's why they call this place Bathurst. Anything can happen.
Now, you've done a lot of endurance races in your career. You got sweat pouring off you. Have you ever worked so hard in an endurance race? Does Bathurst take the cake?
I would say it takes the cake. You know, Daytona is a long, hard grind because you have to do 3 or 4 stints, but the pace here is pretty phenomenal, and it's pretty hard work up over the top there.
Fantastic, Tommy. Great to have you aboard.
Thanks a lot.
Tommy Kendall, all the way from the US of A. Now, for all of those people that are trying to get their entry into our watch and win, I can appreciate how badly you would like to have a Holden Commodore. Keep trying. I know the lines are a little busy. If you're having difficulty getting through, 1902 555 615. If you think you're smart enough to pick the winner, because we can't do it up here in the commentary box, but if you think you can, certainly have a go. 1902 555 615. Can't enter if you're in New Zealand unless you're in your cousin in Bondi. Entries close at 4:30 Eastern Australian time.
Well, Gary, just noticed there the last lap time for Craig Lowndes is the fastest of the race so far at 2 minutes 13.67. That is a very fast time, considering that track out there is not at its optimum as far as the grip surface goes.
Well, we saw 2 minutes 10 in qualifying, but qualifying is a totally different animal, isn't it, to a race under these conditions?
What he's trying to do here is stamp his authority on the event. We're getting up here very close to the 100-lap mark, and he just wants to let everybody else in the whole field know that he can do that time. And if you want to come up and get on my back bumper bar, good luck.
This is car 201, Paul Romano, the second of the pack leader cars. Alan Jones went up in smoke earlier as we saw this car splitting first and second at the moment. Up ahead of him, he's got Craig Lowndes. Behind him, he's got Stephen Ellery in the 25 Castrol car. Andrew Miedeke is behind the wheel, a man that's done some driving stints here for you, Alan Moffat.
Yes, he has. He used to run our Synovus Falcon, and we were all set to do that again this year, but Alan Jones gave him an offer that I couldn't match, and I was happy to see Andrew get into a good team. Dearly would have liked him in my own, but this is a nice run here. We saw Paul with a windscreen wiper motor that broke on him in the very nasty time of the race. With the rain coming down, he had to stop, but they're fighting back. But as I say that, here he comes down pit lane for no doubt a scheduled pit stop.
Charlie O'Brien calling Mad Andy. Is that a deserved...
No, not at all. I found him very calm behind the wheel. I found him very dedicated. He understands the car handling. He can get himself in a bad car and make it a good one. I've got a lot of time for Andrew Miedeke.
Richard Hayes down there.
Thanks, Wilco. And Andy Miedeke, I think, might have been playing in the sand judging by the front of the car. There's an awful lot of debris at the front. Paul Romano's jumped in. It's quite a difference in size between these two guys, so Romano has a seat insert to add so that he can sit comfortably in the car. Wheels and tyres changed, fuel in. This car delayed earlier on in the race with a windscreen wiper problem, probably the wiper motor, but all looks to have been going reasonably well since then. Now they're cleaning out the front of the car, where I think Miedeke has been off, and trying to get the gravel out the front so the air can get to the engine. Steam coming off the brakes and plenty of attention going on to the front of the car. Meantime, right behind, the Brock pit are expecting the 05 car in at any moment with Thomas Mazzera to take over. Still more gravel coming at the front of this car. I'm not sure how much is in there.
A lot, I would say.
Looks that way, doesn't it?
All the onboard systems are so critical on these machines. If that thing's blocked up the radiator, they've got to get it out.
Right, I'm sure they will. They'll be back on track shortly as we pick up on car number 18. Now, this is young Stephen Johnson back behind the wheel of the second Shell FAI Falcon.
We remember that he did a superb job, brought it in almost to lap 44, 45 in the opening stints. He's coming in, he's unhappy with the car.
Got a cooling problem, we understand the message from the pits, possible cooling problem.
Well, that's a pity. He took over from Tommy Kendall, and they won't want to see this.
05 is in as well. Here's Richard Hay.
Thanks, Wilco. Well, Brocky is out of the car, strapping Thomas Mazzera in. Everything else looks to be going pretty much to schedule. There's been a fair bit of work done on the front of the car earlier on, but nothing to do now. And really a very routine stop. Out he goes as we go over to Mark Osler.
Yeah, we've got a bit of problem here with shell number 18 Falcon. Apparently a problem with the cooling system, but they're trying to charge it. And it doesn't look like there's anything leaking out of the car at the moment. They weren't absolutely sure what the problem was. Alan Draper, the chief engine man, supervising work under the bonnet, pins back in. They've dropped 30 seconds.
One of those problems like last year that Stephen and I had in that same car was brakes last year for no reason, because the car ran strong the month before down at Sandown, and here we are again with a heating problem and no problems during the week, so very odd indeed.
You can never tell when they creep up on you, but certainly the one system that has to work faultlessly is keeping it cool. They can only run a certain amount of heat.
For all the motorsports enthusiasts watching our telecasts throughout Australia and New Zealand and in replay in other parts of the world, and you love the sound of the big V8s, if you haven't got up-to-date audio and television equipment, I urge you to go and get some, because we're broadcasting this in Dolby surround sound. So the people that have got the SMIC gear at home will be sitting back and really lapping this up. If you haven't got it, get yourself some, because you cannot beat it. The Dolby surround sound is unbelievable. When you wind the speakers up with the big V8s ripping over the top of the mountain, it is something to behold.
And I know some agency people in Melbourne that'll be doing that right now, Jeff, and I hope you've got it on 19.5 decibels.
Wayne Gardner pursuing Stephen Johnson across the top of Mount Panorama. This is getting towards the business end of proceedings here. Repeating that the #1 Mobile HRT car, Craig Lowndes, leads the race from Stephen Ellery in Tony Longhurst's 25 Castrol Falcon. John Bowe holding down third for Dick Johnson's Shell FAI car, number 17, then Wayne Gardner, and then Thomas Mazira now at the wheel of 05, having just taken station there again from Peter Brock. Gardner goes through.
Well, the number 18 car definitely in trouble. He pulled over for him. Wayne graciously accepted the passing maneuver there that Stephen allowed him, but Steve obviously just holding the revs down a little bit, watching that water temperature. They can run warm, they can run semi-hot, but they can't both for long.
Lowndes the leader in car number 1, car 25, Longhurst and Ellery second. 17 is third, that's Dick Johnson, John Bowe. 7 is fourth, Gardner and Crompton. 05 is fifth, Brock and Mazira. Sixth position held down by car number 11, the Castrol Conacher entry, Perkins and Ingle. Car number 2, Scaife and Cullen is 7. Car number 9, Needswitz and Douglas. The Synovus Banana Boat entry is in 8th position. Walden and Noski are in 9th spot. Faulkner and Harrington, they've been lurking in the top 10 all day. The great race, the AMP 1000 at Bathurst. At Mount Panorama Bathurst, 91 laps down out of 161. Race time 4 hours 20 minutes, or almost 4 hours 20 minutes elapsed. And this is Gary Wilmington, Aussie battler from Sydney, who's been coming here a long time. 17 starts at Mount Panorama in all sorts of machinery. Had a class win here back in 1987 with Bob Holden in a Corolla. He raced a Toyota Supra here 1 year in the Group A category. He's raced everything.
He's a real battler. He tries extremely hard. He's never been blessed with any decent funding, but he does get the car to the start line as many times as you said, Gary, and presents it as well as he can with the funding that he has. Runs a tuning shop in Sydney, and I'm sure he's got plenty of customers urging him on at the moment.
Well, Bill Cedars driving the car with him, and as you said, he puts it together almost with his own bare hands to get here and to do that and to keep going. It's a phenomenal effort. Down in the pit lane, Richard Hayes got Peter Brock with him.
Thanks, Wilco. Peter, you've driven in as many races here now as anybody. How many times have you seen the conditions like they were earlier on today?
Well, they were pretty drastic, let's face it. They're as bad as you'd ever would expect to get. I seem to think that in 1974 we had some times like that, and we were just walking around this track. No safety cars in those days. Of course, your drivers just had to use their own common sense, and then you'd be confronted with a truck going through the dipper, bringing a wreck back to the pits or something. So it's a lot safer. I mean, even though a lot of the drivers are expressing concern, particularly early on, they were talking about the conditions. I think that the authorities have done a pretty good job. They've made it about as safe as they can make it, but it's still hairy.
Now, Thomas started 05 today, then you took over. There was a bit of a problem at the top. What was that about?
Yes, I did. I've actually had a couple of things there that real problems for me. The major one, though, as I went through there and I was momentarily distracted. I had one of the cables not plugged in, flipped around in front of my face, and I really just glanced at that and just lost a little bit of poise there for a moment. Very fortunate to be still in the race, so all I can say is things are on my side at this particular point in time.
Well, you just jumped out of the car looking as fit as I've ever seen you. Everything going all right?
Yeah, the car's running beautifully. It broke the ball joint in the gear shift linkage, which fortunately didn't take the boys too long to repair, but I mean, why that broke is just beyond anyone's imagination, because it's, well, these things happen in motor racing. They're sent to try us, I think, sometimes.
I think you're right there. Thanks, Peter.
During that chat with Peter Brock, the 25 Castrol Falcon entry of Tony Longhurst, Stephen Ellery at the wheel came in for a quick pit stop and has gone back out again, but has dropped to 4th position. So Craig Lowndes leads the race from John Bauer in the 17 Shell car, and Wayne Gardner is now in 3rd position in the car that we can see just disappearing down Conrod Straight there. Number 7, the Coca-Cola Commodore, and still running strong. Wayne Gardner back at the wheel after Neil Crompton's stint, and Wayne Gardner, conditions have improved quite markedly since we spoke to you earlier in the day.
Yeah, we've had to work for it. Believe me, it hasn't been easy. But, yeah, the weather conditions have improved, but so has our results, and we just got to keep working at this thing. It's hard work.
Neil Crompton put in a good stint for you.
You just let him get around the corner there, Gary.
Yes. Yeah, guys, I'll come back.
Okay.
We're hurting his concentration. That just shows that people at home think, oh, yeah, that's easy. We're talking to these fellows. There's nothing to it. Just having that chat. Wayne's trying to do the right thing, answer back with an intelligent answer. And he just under-braked at the end of Conrad and slipped onto the grass. So our apologies to you.
Yes, it is our apologies to Wayne Gardner, because as Alan Moffat said, it all sounds so easy, but it doesn't come quite that easily when you're out there behind the wheel and doing it. And in fact, Charlie O'Brien, it's very noticeable quite often on race cam, even with Peter Brock and Dick Johnson, how the lap times fall off just that, 2 tenths, 4 tenths, 6 tenths of a second when they are chatting to us.
Oh, Gary, it has to. Like, your concentration level is at 100%, and you can't think of things to say back to you up here in the studio box and can carry on at that pace. So I've been offered the case a few times of driving with a camera. I can't do it, so I congratulate these guys that can.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt it is an imposition, and we are eternally grateful for those drivers that do have the facility to be able to do it and do agree to do it for us. And as Charlie O'Brien quite rightly says, there are plenty of drivers who have the offer but say, well, look, we'd love to do it, but no thanks, and that's fair.
I carried the camera on many occasions, but when asked to speak, I said, chaps, I've got limited grey matter. I need all the concentration powers I can have behind the wheel. You can take any pictures you like out of the car. It is an impost, and you'll find the fellows, they're at their best when they're in the lead, and they got about 5 car lengths or 5 laps lead. Then they're a little bit more effusive. But Wayne was struggling there to maintain his poise.
I mentioned the 25 Castrol Falcon was in and out of the pits, and Steve Ellery was still at the wheel. Tony Longhurst, Mark Osler certainly has great faith in the young driver.
He certainly does, Gary Wilkinson. The Castrol Ford just came in there. Tony, you were all togged up, ready to get in. You put in Steve for a double stint. What's happening there?
Well, he's age 22. I thought if I can do it, he can hang in there a bit longer. He's doing a great job. He was only losing about less than half a second lap on Craig Lowndes, so we thought if he runs through another 30 laps, then I can get in and stay in the car to the finish.
As you say, he's only 22. You've put in an enormous amount of time with him this year on both fitness and driving tuition. You must be very proud.
Yeah, very proud. Look, we've got a permanent team of 6. We work our butts off, and to be running up against a HRT with a mega budget and everything like that, I'm just absolutely wrapped.
1988 was the last time you were in the winner's circle. I bet you're pretty hungry today.
I'm real hungry, but Karen says she's pretty hungry too, but it's still a long way to go, and we'll need a bit of luck. We need another pace car. I think we just haven't quite got the pace.
Well, we hope you got the luck with you, Tony.
Thank you.
And who said Tony Longhurst was just a pretty face? A smart move there to save himself, rejuvenate himself, leave the young fellow in, and then jump in and take the last stint. Very good strategic planning.
Car 30 is in the pits yet again. A nightmare day for Glenn Seaton and the Ford Credit entry. The bonnet is up. They're looking, they're puzzled. Remember, they reportedly were running a cylinder down earlier. Among the other difficulties that they've had, Charlie O'Brien, and you can't stress enough the effort that goes into mounting a Bathurst campaign, and the bitter disappointment this must be.
Yeah, certainly, Gary. Like John Sidney, who's built this engine and had an engine in for the car for Sandown, which is a 500-kilometre race. This is a tougher race than Sandown. It's 1,000 kilometres. It's more loading on the engine, very severe. So, it was a big test to come up here with a new engine and expect it to go the whole distance without any problems. But I'm sure they tried their best.
Across the top of Mount Panorama, this is car number 49 left of screen, the Alcare Commodore entry of Greg Crick and David Parsons. Now, it's not the same David Parsons that's co-driving with Glenn Seaton in car number 30. It's a different David Parsons. It's truck driving David Parsons, not Tasmanian dairy farming David Parsons, although the Tasmanian David Parsons, in fact, has sold his dairy farm. He's involved in some other business. But Crick and Parsons, they've campaigned together quite a few times. They're currently running 9th in this car. Another very, very commendable effort on the part of the two of them. Greg Crick has had half dozen starts up here at Bathurst. In fact, it's his birthday today. He's 42 years old today. Happy birthday. What a way to spend it.
Yeah, that'd be nice, 42.
David Parsons, co-driver David Parsons, has had just the one start here previously. He drove here at Bathurst last year and is glad of the opportunity to do so again. Of course, as I said, a truck driver, I mean truck racing. In fact, finished 4th in the Australian Truck Racing Championships in 1994. Now, Wayne Gardner's had another incident out there on the track. No fault of ours, I've got to say, this time. Let's see it again in replay from race cam, just trying to figure out where this is. Must be coming down Conrod somewhere towards Caltex Chase. It looks like car 39, isn't it? I think that might be the Smurden entry, car number 39. Difficult to see from this. Yes, it is. Yeah. So, there's been a bit of push and shove there.
Well, Wayne knows that he's got to keep the pace up. He can see what's happening with the HRT car up the front. He knows he's in with a show, but he has got to extricate every ounce. Look at him throwing the car around there in a dicey position. He is driving this car hard. They've got a good engine, they've got a good car package, but he knows it's up to him now to really push it. It's his car. Oh, look at that, lifting the above that. Oh, that's. I get nervous looking at it.
Yeah, has called the pit, Wayne Gardner, and says he's got some steering damage. He's in 3rd position at the moment. Craig Lowndes leads the race in car number 1 for Mobile HRT. John Bauer, number 17, Shell FAI Falcon is 2nd. Wayne Gardner currently in 3rd place ahead of the car 25 Castrol entry of Stephen Ellery and Tony Longhurst.
Well, this track is hard enough to fight just by itself when everything's perfect. You don't need your steering out of alignment.
Well, you don't, Alan, but it probably maybe has given it a little bit of toe in or a little bit of toe out. It's not going to greatly affect the car, and the way he was coming down the mountain there, it still looked to be handling pretty good to me, so I don't think it'll be a big problem for Wayne. But he has to keep the concentration up. That's once was our fault up in the commentary box, and once their concentration guard went down a little, and you can be out of this race in 5 seconds.
The penalties are very severe here for taking your mind off the job. This isn't a snooker game where you can stand back and think about what your next shot's going to be.
Let's check the full grid readout in the AMP Bathurst 1000. After 95 laps, Lowndes and Murphy lead in number 1 for HRT. Number 17, Johnson Bauer, 2nd spot for Shell FAI. Number 7, the Coke Commodore for Gardner Crompton is 3rd. 25 is 4th. That's Longhurst and Ellery for Castrol Falcon. 05, Brock Mazera for HRT in 5th position. Car number 11, Castrol Conacher entry, Perkins Ingle is 6th. Then Scaife Cleland in car number 2, the Gibson Motorsports Sega entry. Then Neatswitz and Douglas for Synovus Vitamins in car number 9. Are in 8th position. Faulkner and Harrington in car number 46 are 9th for Better Electrical. Johnson Kendall are in 10th position. Crick and Parsons 11th. Walden Noski 12th. Dumsney Bailey in 13th spot. Rose and Shield are 14th. Poole and Gazard holding down 15th at the moment. Then Romano Madiki in 16th position. Dillman and Cotter running 17th. Smurden and Weeks running 18th at the present time. Palmer and Peters in 19th place. O'Brien and Callaghan in 20th place. 21st, Seaton and Parsons, a luckless day. Conway Pope running 22nd. Taylor and Bell 23rd. Kendrick and Full 24th. Waldock and Park in 25th after having put back a wheel that they lost. 26th position in the race at the moment is held by Wilmington and Cedars. Then Reed and Ashby, I don't even know whether they got repaired. McLeod and McLeod likewise after their mishap. Finnegan and McColl still circulating, but out of contention. Richards off the track, of course, as are the runners we see from here on down. Jones flamed out. Jones and Scott pulled out a long time ago. That's Brad Jones. Russell and Shaw exited down the main straight in the rain. So did Trimble, and Larkham and McColl likewise. We'll be back in a moment. Four laps to go before they greet the flag, and for Mossman Toyota, car number 79 is the entry being campaigned by Mike Conway and Miles Pope. Commodore VP Mike Conway, 4 starts here previously at Bathurst, has always finished rearward, although he did campaign here in the smaller car category some years back in '93 in Group A, and finished 3rd in the class in a Toyota Corolla. Miles Pope is a New Zealander. This is his first start ever at Bathurst, but he's had some good placings in class racing in New Zealand in the Nissan Mobile Series over there.
Miles Pope actually owns a 2-litre car, a BMW, and he was good enough to let me drive it at the first round of the 2-litre series this year, and he's been doing a few races here in Australia, and that's giving him a bit of driving around here.
Well, Mike Conway and Miles Pope, as I said, campaigning strongly. Ashby and Reid, as we saw with the incident coming out of Tyre Power Turn at Forest Elbow earlier, ended up with their nose in the wall and did some considerable damage. Did endeavour to repair, got them back out on the track circulating, but nowhere near good enough to remain in contention for the race this year. They've been in and out of the pits several times since then. View of race cam across the top of Mount Panorama, coming off the top of the mountain, in fact.
Here's one of the Gibson cars
being left behind by Larry Perkins in car number 11. Hey, what a feat it is for Larry Perkins to be still in there swinging in 6th position after co-driver Russell Engel put it in the gravel trap at Hell Corner on the turn out of the main straight here.
I'm sure that after last year's, the fortitude they showed to go from last to first, they're not short on character, and they'll keep fighting, because they know as long as that Castro car is running, it's got some speed, it can keep whittling away, get itself back into contention.
Well, you don't give up, Alan, because I remember going back a long time ago with John Harvey and the Marlborough Holden dealer team. We were 8 laps behind in a race, in a 500-kilometre race, and we end up winning it by soldiering on. So don't give up.
You can't give up, and we see it in the golfers, we see it in the tennis players. You just have to keep fighting back. You got to talk to yourself. There's certainly not a football game going on out here. These fellows have got to wrestle with their own emotions and bring their best abilities to the fore on a day like this.
Now, for those people still trying to reach us for the watch and win competition, yes, a reminder again, the numbers are busy, but please do keep trying. We want your entry on 1902 555 615. Entries close at 4:30 Eastern Australian time this afternoon. If you think you can pick the winner, you might be able to win a Commodore. But remember again, don't call from New Zealand because of all sorts of legal reasons. We can't accept entries from New Zealand. But as I said, phone your cousin in Bondi and get him to call on your behalf.
It's a bit of a tough break for the Fisher & Paykel car, the Beta electrical car. They're looking at their gearbox while we take another shot here of the front of the number 3 car, the Lansvale Smash Repair. I think that hit so hard that the radiator really did take a clunk, but here we are back with looks like Steve Harrington in the car. Can't quite tell, but they're working on the gearbox. Maybe a selector problem. If they're at this point of the car, it is a selector division. If it was a gearbox problem, they'd have it jacked up and they'd be working underneath it. Some quick spanner work there by the Beta team. And meanwhile, back at the front of the 3 car, boy, they're shall we say, backsides in the air, trying to get this Commodore refired.
Yes, without too much luck. As I said, Steve Reid and Trevor Ashby will be campaigning a brand new car through the Touring Car Championship next season. A car built and prepared by Wayne Gardner Racing for them, a brand new Commodore, and they'll be looking forward to getting themselves into that. Mark Poole and Peter Gazzard, car number 38, the Scots entry. Mark Poole from South Australia. Campaigner in open wheeler categories for a long time before moving into sedan racing. Meantime, back on the pit lane, Russell Ingall, the man who ended up in the sand trap with the 11 Castrol Konica entry, is with Marco Sloan.
Yes, he is, Wilco. He's still kicking himself, pretty hard on himself. Russell, what happened up there?
Well, it was just starting to dry out. We just come back in and had slicks put on, and looking pretty good at that stage. I think I was quickest on the track by a fair margin, or the boys were telling me. So everything was going to plan, no problems at all, and just went in there, and I still had a lot of rear brake bias on because I was just come off onto wets and didn't really have a chance to adjust it. So the back's just locked slightly going into the bottom corner. Got out on the oil. Oh, there's a bit of petrol spilt by Stephen Richards a bit earlier. Just got in it and just didn't catch it and backed it in. But it was unfortunate because I was only half a car sort of into the gravel trap. I just stopped a little bit before. I think I could have caught it out, but it's put us behind a little bit. But then again, we were a lap down last year, so...
I was going to say, you're a lap down, you're running in 6th position. Tell me, has Larry's idea running the old car worked? Like, is it working better than the VR, you think?
Well, certainly was working up to that stage. In the damp and especially drying conditions, the car was ultra quick, really good. So, I mean, it was on the button there. We seem to be lacking a little bit now in dry, but you know, we'll still press on because there's still, I think, 61 odd laps to go yet. So we never give up.
You've won from this far back before. Best of luck, mate.
Thanks very much.
Race leader Craig Lowndes has completed 101 laps, 60 laps remaining.
Well, Russell Ingall saying there he made a little bit of a mistake, but in golfing terms, everybody's allowed to have a bad chip shot, and I think it was just a little bit of a bad chip shot on his part, man enough to admit it, and the car is still effectively in the race.
Let's take a look at the distance between first and second places. 12.38 seconds from Craig Lowndes back to John Bowe. That's a pretty comfortable cushion at this stage of the race.
Yes, a lot of people would think, oh boy, that's not very far away, but on this circuit, in these conditions, and with what has to happen still over the next 60-odd laps, it's a reasonable little cushion.
Yes, it's got the showing of 94 again, isn't it? That if there's a slight mishap with the front car, we're going to see Bowe up there dicing again, and we could have a repeat of that year.
Yes, we can also have a repeat of water on the track because we got another dirty big black cloud, must have come in from Queensland, Charlie, about to do something nasty. This race isn't over. The agony of the drivers isn't over yet, but John Bowe certainly knows how to nurse a falcon around this circuit, and he'll be taking this one right up as close as he dares to the limit.
I noticed Wayne Gardner's last couple of lap times are certainly as fast as his fastest time for the day, so that steering hasn't hurt the performance of the car, so it's quite good.
Well, we're in triple figures, lap 101, the magical big 100 lap. It's going to be still about 2 more stops for petrol.
Yes, the weather could still play a part in the finish of this race, although it's pretty high cloud. It does look a bit bleak over there, but it's when it starts to roll in low over the hills you've got to start to worry. As we check out the top 10, again, first position, premier place at the moment by Craig Lowndes, number 1, Mobile HRT Commodore after 101 laps. Car 17 is in second place, John Bowe, Shell FAI. Car 7, Wayne Gardner, Coca-Cola Commodore. Fourth spot, Stephen Ellery for Castrol Falcon, car number 25. 05 is in 5th position. Peter Brock at the wheel there of the Mobile HRT car. Then Larry Perkins driving the Castrol Konica Commodore in 6th place. Mark Scafner back behind the wheel of car number 2 in 7th place for Gibson Team Sega. Stephen Johnson driving Shell FAI number 18 is in 8th spot. Then Crick and Parsons in car number 49 have moved up into the top 10. They're holding down 9th, and Walden and Noski are in 10th. After 4 hours, 46 minutes of racing, 103 laps down out of 161. We've had the pace car out 4 times. This race is running well behind its normal schedule, and a lot of expected finishers have not survived to this point. This is the number 6 car, the second of the Fred Gibson Sega Network Q entries. This is the car driven by Gary Walden and Mark Noske.
Great wealth of experience at Bathurst here. Gary co-drove with Alan Jones to win the Bathurst 12-hour 1 year and in an RX-7, and he's certainly a very fine driver, underrated, doesn't get a lot of time in a V8, but certainly Fred Gibson had faith in him and has given him an extremely good car here today.
And Mark Noske, of course, was unlucky not to get a drive with you here last year.
Last year we had an early retirement, and Mark didn't get into the car, but obviously has helped maintain the pace on this one today. And 2 young drivers with lots of future in front of them.
Just 21 years of age, Mark Noske. This is his first outing at Bathurst. Gary Walden is a little more mature. He's been racing now for, I guess, the best part of 18, 20 years. In fact, if I recall rightly, he won his first racing car in one of those one-make series at Amaroo, wasn't it?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think so. And that's how he got started in motorsport, and he's kicked on. And as you said, he's had a wealth of experience. He's started here at Bathurst 4 or 5 times now. Here in the pit lane, the community newspapers entry of Mal Rose and Terry Shield.
Difficulty getting the left rear off. Yes, he's got it on and off. Still waiting. There's the vent man. Fuel goes in on the left-hand side. The vent man has to wait till he sees the fuel coming out on the right-hand side. Tells the team that the 120 litres is well and truly up. Down off the pogo sticks. Onboard jacks. Compressed air pushing that car up on 4 air jacks.
Car number 18. This is Stephen Johnson. And he's dropped back a little bit. He's in 8th position at the moment. Lowndes leading from Bauer, Gardner, Longhurst, Mazira, Perkins, Scaife. Then Stephen Johnson in this car. We understand he may be coming to the pits shortly. Whether there's a problem with the car or not is unclear.
It's a very, very tough job to run 2 cars in this race, Gary. 2 cars is not twice the work of one. It's about 14 times the work of 1 car. And Dick Johnson Racing has really done extremely well for Shell over the last 2 decades. He's put 2 cars in this field every year for as long as I can think. They're beautifully prepared. They look great. And whether he's in 8th place or 18th, Stephen will be doing a good job for Dad.
Stephen Johnson, 22 years of age, of course lives in Queensland. Where else? First in his class in the Bathurst 12-hour race, and with the taste of things on the mountain here and the experience under his belt doing great things here today, has had really limited opportunities behind the wheel, but has certainly proved his worth in the big time.
He's in the right family to advance his cause, though, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, I think that's pretty fair to say. Well, whatever was niggling him apparently has gone away, because they decided not to pit, at least not at this point. So it looks to be going okay. I mean, he's lapping in that last lap 2:16, so...
Well, there can't be anything wrong with the car, because candidly, anything under 20, you have to have a moon rocket under your foot. 16, very respectable.
Fastest lap on the course at the moment, Craig Lowndes in the number 1 Mobile HRT car, 2 minutes 13.67, and he leads by 19.4 seconds over John Bauer in car number 17. Thomas Mazira in 05, the second of the HRT cars that he's co-driving with Peter Brock. I mentioned before the police camera action, if that's got you intrigued, is because Peter Brock will be starring, and I use the word advisedly, in that new series that starts on the 7 Network Round Australia on October 16, with Peter Brock right in the thick of the action, as his partner Thomas Mazira is here as the laps wind down at Bathurst, holding down 5th position in the race at the present time. Last lap time for Thomas Mazira, 2:14.
Very respectable.
Well, he's going a little quicker than Steve Ellery is in the Longhurst car in front of him, so he's bridging the gap there and looking for a shot at 4th place. Thomas
Mazira, a lot of practice. I only got to drive twice this year, the Sandown 500 and now here at Bathurst, but he's kept himself extremely fit. I don't know what it is about these Queenslanders, Charlie O'Brien, but they must run around in the early hours of the morning. I know Thomas likes his golf and plays an extremely good game of golf, but it's an effort to get mentally into gear and do a job like he's doing here today.
Oh,
here's trouble.
Gardner.
It's a right front puncture. He's got to get it back, and when he turns left here, it's going to be hard to turn. If it slow it down a bit, it's very hard to turn to the left. There he's got the brakes on. What a catastrophe. Well, he'll make it. He's just on the approach there. He's already taking advantage of loosening the belts. And
driver change coming.
Crompton getting ready to jump back in again, but necessary. Boy, take it easy now, mate. There's a lot of wiggles in here to slow the cars down on the approach to the pit lane. It's a couple of zigzags. I don't know how you describe them, but there's 2 or 3 turns here. Now he has to start his 60 kilometer an hour. I don't think he's too worried about going faster than that anyway. Past number 1 pit, he's about the 4th garage up, so quickly into the pits, out of the car, off with that front puncture.
Richard Hayes there.
Yes, indeed, Wilco, and off gets thrown the wheel with the punctured tyre. On goes the new one. Neil Crompton into the car, and I had a word earlier on with them about the possible steering damage that Wayne had got. They said it wasn't too bad, and it wasn't affecting him too much. But everything else seems to have gone reasonably well on that stop, and I'm not sure how much time he lost because of the puncture, but it wasn't a lot in the pits.
That was a good stop.
An excellent stop. They will have lost a little time, of course, with Gardner slowing down on his way down Conrod and into the pit entry lane. And then, of course, getting the wheel change, driver change, and getting back out there again. That was very slickly done. They'll have lost a minimal amount of time, I'd suggest.
Here's Neil plugging himself in. He's got the drink tube that he stuck up underneath his full-face helmet. A lot of drivers taking the option to run an open-face helmet. I don't really agree with that. I think your head's far too valuable part of the body to have your face open. Technology is there. Let's use it.
I would actually prefer to run one of the new type helmets that draws air from outside the car through a filter system, because one thing that is quite amazing now, the cars are pushing so much horsepower and you're dumping so much fuel into the cars that you're breathing nothing but carbon monoxide fumes when you're following.
Look, Wayne
shot of Wayne Gardner there, and looking a little the worse for wear.
It's a hard day's work. So Crompton on board with the Coke car after a good stop, recovered from a bad situation. Wayne brought it in as fast as he possibly could. They didn't waste too much time. And Crompton now just settling in a little bit. He's not jumping on that gas pedal too extremely here until he gets the feel of these tires. Wants to warm those Dunlops up. Dunlop struggling here this season. They're still recovering from the Kobe earthquake, and the engineers have been pulling their hair out. And you don't see too many gray-headed Japanese fellows, but the head of engineering, who's here from Dunlop in Japan this weekend, he doesn't have a full head of hair, and it's not all black.
Craig Lowndes is about to put him a lap down. He's going to give it his best shot, which he does, as you can see on our Telstra race cam as he goes by Neil Crompton.
As well, Crompton would have come on to Conrod just a little bit more cautiously, whereas Lowndes was wound up and really pushing this car. He seems to be able to drive these cars extremely fast without hurting them.
Wayne Gardner's had a chance to take breath. Sorry to interrupt, Alan. He's with Richard Hay.
Thanks, Wilco. And Wayne, that was one of your more exciting trips around Bathurst, wasn't it? That stint, you had a moment with Wilco talking to, then when a back marker got in the way, and then a flat at the end.
Yeah, when Wilco was trying to talk to me, rear wheels locked up and I had a bit too much rear brake on, so it all was sort of bad timing-wise. But as far as that goes, no, the front tyres failed and it split and it's just understeered and nearly hit the wall a couple of times trying to get around the corner. So it's not pleasant. You could do without these sorts of things.
We heard you got a bit of a steering problem as well after a touch with a back marker earlier on. Would that have affected it?
Oh, it was slightly left-hand down, but nothing much, and the car was handling the same and the lap times are coming back the same, so that was a good 15 or 20 laps ago, so I can't imagine that having to do with it. Would have happened a lot earlier than now. It seems like I think possibly the tyres fail on the side case, or I don't really know. You know, it's difficult to say when it comes back just on the rim.
Such a close race. It's a shame to lose that relatively small amount of time, but it all counts, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, it's time loss that you don't need. Yeah, every second you got around here you need, and yeah, it's disappointing, but that's motor racing, as they say.
Thanks, Wayne.
Just picking up on Charlie's comment about the strain on the drivers and the heat, that glaze on Wayne's eyes, whereas the fumes causing that. It's a little bit hot and bothered from the heat in the car. That's normal, but he's suffering from the fumes.
Well, that pit stop, that flat tyre cost them one spot. They're back to fourth with Crompton behind the wheel. It's Lowndes leading for number 1, Mobile HRT. 17 is second, Dick Johnson for Shell FAI. 25 is third, Stephen Ellery for Castrol Falcon. Then Neil Crompton for Coca-Cola Commodore in car number 7. Brock Mazira in 5th position in 05. 6th is held by Scaife and Cullen in car number 2. Car number 11, the Castrol Konica entry of Larry Perkins, is in 7th position. Then Stephen Johnson in the second Shell FAI car number 18 in 8th spot. Crick and Parsons, car 49, are in 9th spot. And in 10th spot, Walden and Noski, followed by Needswitz and Douglas in the Synovus Banana Boat Falcon entry. Faulkner Harrington in 12th, Poole and Gazard in 13th. Rose and Shield are in 14th position. Dumsney and Bailey are in 15th. That's after 108 laps of the great race.
Yes, the young gun Craig Lowndes and the Holden takes a 20-second lead into the 6th hour of the great race of 1996. The 5th hour, of course, was a battle for the front spot, and Craig Lowndes taking the lead from Tony Longhurst as they entered pit straight. Meantime, in the pits, Andrew Madiki was having problems with both gravel and dirt, which really upset his plans, and Stephen Johnson in car 18 was struggling with his coolant. But out on the track, Wayne Gardner was lucky to stay there, almost disappearing off Caltech's chase. Then, just a lap later, he was in the wars again, giving backmarker Chris Burton a gentle tap in car 39. But Gardner, like others, certainly had their problems on this very testing day here at Mount Panorama. And plenty of into the pits. The latest to blow on tyre was forced him into the pits, and Neil Crompton now in the number 7 car as they go into hour 6 of this great race of 1996. Just a reminder that there's only about an hour and a half now to go for this final of the Watch and Win competition. Dial 1902-555-615. Then on command, dial in the number of the car.
Well, I think he ended up letting his heart rule his head, and he ended up going for Dick Johnson in the finish there. And the head, I think, might have it right the way things are shaping up, because Craig Lowndes continues to lead and is pulling away from them at the moment from John Bauer, the rate of almost a second a lap. He is 27 seconds clear, Craig Lowndes, of second place getter John Bauer, and then a fairly sizable gap back to Stephen Ellery in Tony Longhurst's Castrol Falcon car number 25, followed by Neil Crompton in the Wayne Gardner number 7 Coke Commodore.
Well, Craig Lowndes really hasn't let up since he got in the car. He's opened up with some 2:14s just to let people know he was back on the track, and he's settled down to nothing less than a 2:15 and a bit, and the others are finding it rather hard to stay with him at that pace.
We mentioned some of the teams having communications problems earlier, including the HRT team had been difficulty communicating with Peter Brock's vehicle, and the Dick Johnson team weren't able to communicate with Dick Johnson's car. They fixed that on the last pit stop by strapping a portable radio to Dick's leg.
Once they get used to using it, it's a bit like heroin, man. You can't get off it, and the radio communications are great when they're working. When you lose them, you're just absolutely out there in limbo, in the black hole, as the astronauts would tell you, and not much fun.
Little incident just a few moments ago took place right in front of Stephen Ellery in the Castrol car. It looks like somebody just losing it there in front of him. Yes, indeed. That was car number 79, just going round at Murray's Corner at the bottom of Conrod Straight.
Mike Conway.
But getting away with it, and Stephen Ellery escaping unscathed from that incident. So Lowndes leading from Bauer, Longhurst, Crompton, then Mazira in 05, Scaife in the Seeger Commodore number 2, and then Larry Perkins in car number 11.
Well, young Ellery will be suffering a bit of strain now. He's been in there for 2 sessions, put in there by the boss, told him to stay out. But now, in dry conditions, it'll be hurting him, and tough on his conditions.
Greg Murphy, New Zealander, and the pride of Kiwi land at the moment, because he could be powering his way to a Bathurst victory here if they play their cards right, waiting for Craig Lowndes to come in to give him another stint.
Yes, they'd dearly like to be a few more laps out so that they don't have to stop again, but with the fuel economy that we saw them achieve in the first segment, they may very well be, this may very well be the last stop for them, but I think it might still take a bit of a top up towards the end.
The Castrol Falcon, car number 25, Stephen Ellery.
Here we go, weighs 1,350 kilos minimum weight. They might weigh a bit more, but they can't weigh any less. A Ford SVO 5-liter V8 fuel injected naturally, pushrod 2 valves, 10-to-1 compression, 7,500 RPM rev limiter that is imposed by everybody. Torque through 440 foot-pounds at 550, not bad at all, and running the Australian-made Hollinger 6-speed gearbox, a world-class invention, sold around the world by Peter Hollinger.
So that's the car that the hopes of Tony Longhurst and Stephen Ellery and the Ford camp are riding on, along with, of course, the Dick Johnson, John Bauer 17 Shell FAI Falcon, because those two are caught in a Commodore sandwich at the moment, with Lowndes up front in the number 1 HRT car, and in 4th position Neil Crompton in the Coca-Cola Commodore. It's a two-make battle, Holden and Ford.
Well, it'll be a nervy stop for the HRT team. They know this is one they've done extremely well throughout the day. Their stops have been superb. But every time the car stops, it's always fraught with danger. Anything can happen. And getting that fuel in without an incident, getting all the 4 tires on without any incident, drivers hooked up and out the pit lane without exceeding the 60K speed limit, a lot of pressure on a team to maintain it. But when you're in the lead, you do have a little extra zeal going your way.
All the talk about the tyre war, I guess, was tempered somewhat by the intemperate weather. Charlie O'Brien helped to even things up earlier in the day.
Oh, it certainly did, Wilco. You know, the HRT must have been quite worried in the beginning there with that rain. But now there's back to dry conditions. They're back to their race plan, and they've always had a faster car, and it's proving it again here by pulling away a second a lap.
Well, we've got the front runner on Bridgestone, 2nd place getter on Dunlop's, 3rd place getter on Yokohama's. But those Bridgestones certainly look to be increasing their bite in these drier conditions as we get into the latter stages of the race.
Speaking of bite, Lowndes has just bitten a 2:13.8 out of the track, so he's not slowing down. He's going to get as much time up as he can before he hands over to his partner, Greg Murphy.
31 years ago today, Barry Seaton won this race. Glenn Seaton almost pulled it off last year. To make it a father and son double, albeit 30 years apart. He's been vitally interested in the event and, of course, in Glenn's progress and in the building of the cars for Glenn in recent years, and he's with us in pit lane at the moment.
Well, Cohen, while we're talking about years, Bo Seaton celebrating his 60th birthday yesterday. Bo, you're now working for the Castrol Racing Team. It must be very satisfying to see your engine out there with Stephen Ellery pedalling along in the top 3.
Yeah, it is really, Mark, because you know, I've lost a little bit of confidence after leaving Glenn's team, who I've worked for all my life, virtually, for Glenn, and to walk away and do well with some other young guy, you know, it's really good for the spirit.
I can imagine you will have everything crossed if this car gets to within 9 laps of the finish and it's leading the race. It must be a nervous moment for you.
Well, it is. I've been here that many times now that, you know, I don't worry about the finish until the race is over. Like last year, you saw what happened, 9 laps from the finish. But I'm just happy that the car is running where it's running at the moment.
Fantastic. Wish you best of luck.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Well, the old love-hate relationship between driver and engine builder. When it's your dad and you have to part company, a tough call for Glenn Seaton, but good on Bo. Not standing on ceremony. He took his skills to Tony Longhurst and has got that car up there in 3rd place today. Well done, Bo.
32 seconds is now the lead for Craig Lowndes in the number 1 HRT car over John Bauer in the Dick Johnson entered Shell FAI Falcon. So stretching it little by little and coming in for the change now. Lowndes bringing in the race leader. Greg Murphy standing by to take the wheel. This will be their second last pit stop. We've got 115 laps completed as Lowndes comes to the pit. Richard Hayes on the spot.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this pit crew, you talk about the drivers being pumped up, they're the same. They're all sitting there with the air guns revving and everything else before the guy comes in. Craig is out of the car. Greg Murphy is in. Windscreen's being cleaned. They are so well drilled, these boys. The 60k sign held up in front of him so he doesn't speed going up the pit lane, doesn't attract a penalty. And that was an impressive stop. But take a look at the lap number, 115. There's still a few to go, and he's going to have to stop again.
Less than 20 seconds. I have to take my hat off to the HRT boys. They've done extremely well in the pits today. That's a terrific flow rate coming through that dry brake system. 25 is a phenomenal time, but to do it in under 20 is just beyond the best you can do.
John Bower assumed the lead during that pit stop because you've got to take into account the slowdown time getting into the pit entry lane on top of the actual pit stop time itself, and with a 60k limit it just takes that little bit longer to get out again. So John Bower has slid by. He's not that far in front. He was just getting to the top of the mountain straight as Craig Lowndes rejoined out of the pit exit.
The greatest asset Dick Johnson has, apart from his son Stephen, John Bower's done a superb job with this team. He's stayed faithfully with them. He drives superbly in the sprint races. When him and Dick get together, they're a very formidable team. And no matter what happens here today, Dick will be very, very pleased with his partner as usual.
Well, I got to say, the thing about John Bower is that he doesn't let his own ego get in the way of
exactly
of the team results.
No.
The 18 car is back in.
Stephen out, Tommy Kendall back in for another dose of Australian hospitality. My early days, I said to myself, if I can beat an Aussie in Australia, I'll go anywhere in the world. And I'm sure Tommy Kendall's saying to himself as well, I wouldn't mind beating a few more Aussies if I could.
Car 2, the Sega entry, was also in and out in all this confusion and has rejoined in 6th position.
Now, that's no way to treat a Ford, to kick the door in like that. I think we have to be a little bit more respectful here, chaps.
Car 18 rejoins the race in 8th position. Dick Johnson on standby now, waiting for John Bower, so we'll expect to see some more action there in the Shell pit very shortly. For the moment, though, John Bower is leading.
With the telemetry in these cars now, Wilco, you can tell wherever the car is around the track, you can tell exactly how many litres are in the car to the 10th. So very critical for a situation like this.
The 10th drop, you mean, Charlie? Down to the last liter, yes. Great. That side of it is fascinating. Some of the electronics in the engine management gets a little bit too fascinating for my liking. Very, very complicated. I've never seen so many wires in my life as what went into our Synovus Falcon this year. But the Motec onboard management system, again, a great Australian invention, is sold around the world. They've won touring car championships in England. They're involved with the American teams. Fabulous product.
With Greg Murphy back in the number 1 Mobile HRT car, Craig Lowndes, is available to talk to us with Andy Raymond. Let's do it over here. Oh no, it's Richard Hay, not Andy Raymond. Sorry.
Thanks, Wilco. We're just moving out of the way actually because there's action about to happen behind us again. But Craig, some impressive times out there, but you had to work for them, yeah?
Yeah, well, the car was quite good actually. It was very good balance. We tried a slightly harder tyre that session than we did with Greg, and no, the car was beautiful. We just wanted to go a little bit more conservative, and the car was beautiful. No, I got stuck behind. I think it was Tony at the start, but we managed to get by him, and we had a fairly clean run. We got caught up with a bit of traffic, but that was terrific. Like everybody got out of our way. We never had a problem at all.
Any problems at all so far?
Not so far. Well, Peter has, but we haven't. Our car's been running faultless all the whole week, and no, I just hope we can do these last 45 laps or whatever it is to go and end up on the podium. Like we come here to win, we didn't come here to come second.
Thanks, Craig. One more splash and dash stop to come.
Craig Lowndes smiling. He can afford to at this moment. Somebody else, the smile's been wiped from their face, though.
The Kendrick car.
Yeah, Kendrick and Full. This is the one that had the big oil spill problem before, and which was held up for a long time in pit lane before officials were satisfied that the problem was corrected and would let them back out again.
He's parked that on Conrad, Gary, and the clerk, of course, might deem it to be not the spot to have a parked car.
Well, it's pretty narrow down there between the concrete walls. If somebody slides off the circuit, there's only one place. If you end up against the wall, then you're going to end up cannoning like a billiard ball into the rear of this. So I think, yes, that's probably going to happen. We'll await developments.
Mark Donoghue did this once at Indianapolis, just parked at the side of the track on the back straight, and car sat there for about 30 laps, and then all of a sudden somebody got into a spin and wiped it out. So officialdom he's pushing it back out of what he considers try to make it a bit safer. He certainly can't push it by himself. But this could very well be a safety car situation where that car needs to be removed, in the opinion. Although, there we go. They'll be able, if officials get to it, they can push it back into that windbreak.
05 is there. Thomas Mazira, I presume, is out of the car, and Brock in, yes. Wheel change, fuel. A tyre change and fuel, and set to go.
Well, he's abandoned ship. It's safely parked there. It's up to Tim Schengen.
Good stop there, Mazira and Brock. They came in 5th position. They went back onto the track in 5th position. 17, the leader. John Power, 11 seconds ahead of Greg Murphy in the Holden team car. Hello. Off at Murray's Corner.
70-something? 78?
79. It's car number 79.
Mike Conway?
Yes, Conway and Miles Pope. We were talking about them only 5 or 10 minutes ago. Into that big gravel trap at Murray's Corner. Now, we've got 2 cars off on the edge of the track. One at Conrad, one here at Murray's Corner in the sand trap. Let's have a look at this in replay. As Mike Conway tries to keep it under control, going straight ahead, though.
He should have gone down to the road to Bathurst.
Should have turned left. Right, rather.
Yeah, just gone down the road, the escape road. That's always been there. He could have gone down and do a U-turn. Now he's done a U-turn into the sand. Tried to save it. Well, that's these judgments.
Not quite as spectacular as Mr. Katayama when he drove here with Alan Grice back in about 78.
In the Mazda RX-3, came down on his lid.
On all ends.
Yes.
John Bow into the pits. So this is the change to Nick Johnson. Fuel stop here. This will put Greg Murphy back into the lead. But let's take this pit stop with Andy Raymond.
Thanks, Gary. And just as John Bow pulled up, Greg Murphy in the number 1 HRT car went straight past. This perhaps the most crucial stop of the period for the Shell FAI team. Everything rather routine. The 120 litres, 4 tyres, a clean to the windshield, a change of driver, and they are just about ready to go. We've been going 22, 23 seconds, and Johnson is off. A good stop.
Still a good stop. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent stop.
Well done there. A little water got splashed on Dick's hand, but that won't matter. That'll just give him some grip on the steering wheel.
And Murphy has assumed the lead as we expected he would, and Dick Johnson returns in 2nd place. Now here's a view from overhead of the car that's in the sand trap at Murray's Corner. And
4-wheel drive there will probably throw out a string to him and try and drag him back there onto the tarmac. Not too dangerous a position.
Stephen Ellery coming in, so Tony Longhurst about to get back into the 25 Castrol Falcon. Andy Raymond again.
That has been an extraordinary drive from young Stephen Ellery. If the Longhurst-Ellery combination wins Bathurst, Stephen Ellery will be the youngest driver. Again, it's a regulation pit stop, rather quick, and there's a fantastic teamwork here between Stephen Ellery and Tony Longhurst. They really do not only just jump in and jump out of the car, they help themselves get off and going, and that is lightning. Just under 22 seconds, and Stephen Ellery is almost off his feet. We'll let him catch his breath, guzzle some water, and we'll have a chat to him.
Great stop again. All these top teams have realized that the pace is so frenetic on the track that if they don't have good pit stops to back up all the hard work from the drivers on the track, it will all be for nothing. That was a very smart move. And did you see how fast Tony Longhurst just clicked his belt, threw it into 1st gear, and he's up even without engine up on speed. Here's Ellery smiling, looking good, and looking very refreshed for the number of laps he's just done.
Well, they were in and out without losing a spot, so they're still in third position on the track. Here's the race leader now, car number 1. Greg Murphy, the Mobile HRT Commodore, which has been right on the pace through the day here, despite the deplorable conditions that we had earlier. And as the conditions of... Oh, they've got this car out. Okay, 79 has been pulled out of the sand trap at the bottom of Murray's Corner, so that will negate any chance of a pace car there, so that's good. And it's still in a pretty hairy spot there. They'd be anxious to get rid of it from there. Let's check out the top 10 as they stand at this stage after 119 laps. Lowndes and Murphy, car number 1, still in the lead. Car 17 is second. That's Johnson and Bauer. Car 25 is third. Longhurst and Ellery. Then car number 7, Gardner and Crompton. Brock and Mazera in car 05 in 5th position. Perkins and Ingle, car number 11th in 6th spot. Car number 2, Scaife and Cleland holding down 7th. And then in 8th place, we've got car number 6, Walden and Noski. That's the second Gibson entry. Johnson and Kendall, car 18, running 9th. And Klaus Niedzwitz and Ken Douglas in the Synovus Banana Boat entry in 10th position. 215, the Castrol Falcon trying to stall off Neil Crompton in car number 7, the Coke Commodore, and Mark Osler has returned from the frantic activity in pit lane to join the frantic battle in these concluding, well, I say concluding, it's still a long way to go at 41 laps, but we're winding it down to the important part of the day.
When you think that Glenn Seaton lost last year's race by 9 laps, you do realise that 41 laps is an awfully long way to go. And the atmosphere down in the pits, I can tell you can hear a pin drop. It's so tense down there. This race so close and so many teams in contention for a win here. It's unbelievable atmosphere down there. And will only get much tougher and much more nerve-wracking as the day wears on. Look at this great shot from the Coca-Cola Commodore as he follows Tony Longhurst across the top of the mountain at 200 kilometres an hour.
Well, we know it's Tony's plan to stay in the car to the finish. He let Ellery have 2 stints in a row. Tony's already done 2 himself at the beginning of the day, but he's fresh and ready to go, and plenty of petrol to keep this fight up. And of course, Neil Crompton wanting to bring his Coke car up one more notch. 4th isn't a podium finish. With first 1, 2, 3 is what we need here today.
Well, Neil, of course, is jetting off to the USA on Tuesday. He's going to test a Tasman Motorsports Lola Honda Indy car for a couple of stories from magazines, so that'll be a great opportunity for him on the Gingerman Raceway in Michigan. 3-kilometre road course down there. He's got 2 days of driving in the Indy car, and that'll be a great experience. But meanwhile, he's got his mind on this job, trying to close on Tony Longhurst. 3rd place. Oh, look at that.
Tony's getting aggressive here. He knows he's got a mean competitor behind him, and he didn't want to lose the slightest bit of opportunity through the S's there with the Sega car.
Well, it looked like he was getting a bit frustrated with Cleland there as he came into the kink, and he really muscled his way past. Now Crompton is in behind Cleland.
Here we go up pit straight. Great photos from the Coca-Cola onboard race cam. Channel 7 invention, many years old now, copied around the world by every motor racing and television body that produces motorsport. But instigated right here at Bathurst by Channel 7. And Longhurst got a nice little lead out of that move. He knew that if he could get through that little traffic jam. Now here comes Neil up alongside Cleland. Or Scaife, I'm not sure. Mark Scaife on that last pit stop.
Tony Longhurst hanging on to 3rd position, but he's there because of a great double stint by Stephen Ellery. He's down in the pits with AJ.
A fantastic double stint by Stephen Ellery. 57 laps, that's sure to test your shoulders and your arms.
It was probably go down in the books as one of the hardest things I've ever done. Halfway through it, I didn't think I was going to make it, but I got into a rhythm, started getting down some good times, and I think I'm probably the happiest person at the track at the moment.
Saying it was hard, you could also say it was enjoyable.
That was equally as enjoyable. It was the most enjoyable thing I've ever done as well, and I just thank Tony Longhurst, Castrol, Ford, Yokohama for giving me the opportunity, my sponsor QDE. It's just a fantastic feeling to be here with the Longhurst team.
What were the instructions going into your stint? Keep it straight and try and keep it on the pace?
Yes, and basically that's what I've done. The car's in a winning position now, or at least a podium position, because we're still in third. And that was my job. I've done it. And you won't wipe the smile off my face too quick, I can tell you that.
Deserve to be smiling, Stephen Ellery. Well done.
One very happy young man, Stephen Ellery, and so he should be. Big step up into the big league, and he's done his team proud. Just a reminder, you're trying to get through to the switchboard for the Watch and Win competition. We just have to tell you the lines are absolutely jam-packed. You are going to have to wait your turn. They're trying to get through as many as they can, but it is taking a long time. An unbelievable response. Remember, those watching in New Zealand on TV3, you cannot enter that competition, so don't bother trying to call from New Zealand. The number again locally, 1902 555 615. And a reminder, those lines are open till 4:30. So please, if you want to enter, keep trying, but bear with us. There is a lot of calls coming in. TVNZ, New Zealand audience joining us here for the great race, and what a great race it is. Just looking at that double stint by Stephen Ellery. Charlie O'Brien just can't imagine how fit and the level of concentration you have to do that successfully.
It's a lot harder than most people think, Mark. The last time Tony was in an opportunity was 94 for a podium finish, and he certainly is that again now. 94, Larry Perkins beat us to the line, and we didn't get to stand on the podium, but hopefully for Tony and Stephen's sake, he does it this year.
So a little gap stabilising between Tony Longhurst and Neil Crompton in the Coca-Cola Commodore, the last surviving Coca-Cola Commodore. The Jones Scott car retiring much earlier today with an electrical problem.
We have to remind people too that it is a monster tire war going on here, not only today but all year. The preparation for the right tires that come to this circuit, and we have Bridgestone in the lead, followed by Dunlop and Tony Longhurst bringing up the best of the Yokohama team. So be nice for everybody concerned if that was the way it unfolded.
Neil Crompton in pursuit of Tony Longhurst, 36 years of age. Neil, born in Ballarat, Victoria, now lives in the beautiful northern suburbs of Sydney at Belrose. 8 starts in the great race. He's had 2 podiums, 2 third positions, but he's never cracked it for a win, and he desperately wants to do it. He's certainly been pretty effective. First in the Bathurst 12 Hour in 1994, in the Mazda RX-7 with the late, great Greg Hansford. First in class in the Bathurst 12 Hour in 1991. He's also proved a dab hand in open wheel as third in the Australian Drivers' Championship back in 1989. And he's a very quick, very competitive driver. Just waiting for that big win, and the one he wants is at Bathurst.
Here we go down pit straight again as we pick up on Larry Perkins' Castrol Commodore.
Well, Russell Engel was really kicking himself down in the pits there. Did an interview with him a while ago, but I really had to cajole him to get him out of that chair to talk. He just felt so bad about it. And these drivers, they know the responsibility, and they just take it very personally when they make a mistake.
Well, Russell works very hard for Larry, and he supervises and helps supervise a lot of the preparation in the car. He knows how hard the fellows work. He knows how hard he and Larry had to drive it to keep it in that place. So naturally, he would be down on himself. But in any sport, it's not how many times you get down, it's how many times you get up.
Cutting some quick laps here too. Longhurst just on a 2:15.17. Crompton at 2:14.9. So Crompton 2/10 quicker than Longhurst that time around. The 2 cars ahead of them, Johnson cutting mid to high 15s. Murphy's just fired off at 2:15.2. So this top 4 ultra competitive. Let's check on the Shell Helix scoreboard at the moment. Lowndes and Murphy, of course, leading. Johnson and Bow in pursuit. Longhurst and Ellery. Gardner and Crompton in car 4. In car 7, sorry, the Coca-Cola Racing Commodore. Car 05, Brock and Mazira hanging on in 5th position. Perkins and Ingle, car 11, the Castrol Commodore. Scaife and Clellan in car 2, hanging on in 7th. Walden and Oski, the second of the Gibson cars, in 8th. Johnson and Kendall, car 18, the Shell Falcon hanging on in 9th. Needs Fitz and Douglas in 10th position. 11th, Crick and Parsons in the Alcare Commodore. Faulkner and Harrington, the better electrical car. Rose and Shield in the Fairfax Commodore in 13th. 14, car 201, Romano and Madecki. Pack leader Falcon a few laps down now. Dumpsney and Bailey in 15th position. 16th, Tholman and Cutter. 17th, Smurden and Weeks in the Commodore. In 18th, Poole and Gazzard in the Scott Transport Commodore, all the way from South Australia. 19th, Palmer and Peters, the Palmer Promotion Commodore from Queensland. And Seaton and Parsons still hanging on in 20th position. 21st, O'Brien and Callahan, the Everlast Commodore. Taylor and Bell in the Xerox Shop VP. Conway and Pope in the Cadillac Films Commodore in 23rd. 24th, Kendrick and Full. another Commodore, and Gary Wilmington and Siders in Wilmington Performance Falcon EB, 26th. Reed and Ashby, you can see by the laps there, these are way down the order. Some of them not running, getting down to those ones that aren't running. McLeod still hanging on in 27th, 28th, Waldock and Park. They are Finnegan McColl out on lap 37. Stephen Richards and Jim Richards, a very competitive car, but out early on lap 33. 31 laps only. 25 laps only for Alan Jones and Alan Grice with that spectacular fire. 23 laps, Jones and Scott were out with electrical problem, and just 4 laps for Russell Shaw. David Attard at the wheel of the Daily Planet car collided on Conroy straight early, only 4 laps, and Larkham and McConville tragically out on lap 3. There's more to come in just a moment.
Greg Murphy at the wheel, number 1, Mobile HRT Commodore, as the Lansdale Smash Repairs car comes in once more. Murphy now leading by 36 seconds over Dick Johnson in the 17 car for Shell FAI.
Well, we've had a lot of great New Zealand drivers participate in this race. The late Denny Holm, followed by Jim Richards, who came over and took a lot of prize money away from the Aussie drivers. Fabulous competitor now with his son behind the wheel as well. But here we have young Greg Murphy showing us that these New Zealanders are a force to be reckoned with.
Glenn Seaton Parsons' car, disastrous run this race. All sorts of problems during the day. Lansvale car rejoins the track many laps down. Here's Seaton Parsons.
Doing a little brake number there. There's the big pliers going in to pry the calipers back. The pistons have to be pried back so that the thicker pads that are going in have got some space to nestle in between the caliper and the brake disc. Just what your normal mechanic does for you when you go in and ask for a brake change. Unfortunately, he doesn't do it in 30 seconds.
So wheel back on. Ran a twin caliper brake setup at Sandown in the 500. Reverting to a single caliper setup here for the race. There had been a problem with that frightening accident David Parsons had earlier in the week. It was something they knew. And back in the race, car 30 rejoins in 19th position, but many laps down, as we said.
Tommy Kendall, the American driver at the wheel of this car, the Falcon, the second Falcon entry of Dick Johnson's Shell FAI team. But he's on the tail of car number 6, the second Sega Commodore entry, being driven by Gary Walden. This is the battle for 8th and 9th positions.
Well, he'll be deciding now just about whether he ever wants to be a guest of Dick Johnson again. 7 seconds, okay, he can fight that back, but having weathered through the rain and now the speed of the car in the dry, he'll know for sure that this isn't all Dixie in Australia, that this is one damn tough race, and he'll go back advocating either a great desire to come back and improve himself or a desire to race more in America.
Just amazing watching these lap times all the way from Murphy. Murphy's cutting he's done a 2:15 dead, somewhere in the high 14s as well, really pushing hard. So is Johnson, so is Longhurst, so is Crompton, all up in that range. You go all the way down the list to about 9th with Tommy Kendall, the car we're watching now. All of a sudden it jumps up a couple of seconds. Needs for 221, 218, 220, 221. So this leading 9 cars are really just so close and competitive, and it rings true that in this category there are a genuine 9 cars that could win this race.
From the 7 Chopper car, number 6, Gary Walden, the second Sega car. This is the one that Tommy Kendall is in pursuit of for 8th and 9th positions.
Gary Walden, 40 years of age, from Gosford on the New South Wales Central Coast, and past master. Only got to ask Alan Horsley how he raced this guy. Absolute genius in a Mazda RX-7 during the 12-hour here, twice winner of the Bathurst 12-hour race with Mazda. Also the 1988 Australian production car champion, third in the Sandown 6-hour in 1993. He also had a try at the Tiger Tasmania a couple of years ago too.
Another aerial view. This is from the Whitman's chocolate lightship, which we've had over the circuit. Well, we think it's been there all day. There were times when we couldn't see it.
Disappeared in all the mist.
Bringing us a different view, a stable camera platform, no doubt about that, and does provide a terrific, a different panorama of this fantastic circuit. Look at that. Huge crowds. Whether it's a record crowd, I don't know, but it would have to go pretty close, I would think, because they were queued up here to get into the circuit right through the days that we had of practice from Wednesday through qualifying Thursday, Friday, the top 10 runoff yesterday, and of course the race today, despite the unbelievable weather conditions that we had this morning. And some of the people camped on top of the mountain, which by the way was closed last night. They just couldn't squeeze any more people in up there. Some of those people have been camped there for 8 or 10 days.
That's what you call motorsport enthusiasts, I think.
Well, they'll be coming into their own up there now, especially if it comes down to HRT versus Dick Johnson Falcon. They'll really be giving voice to their passions.
Well, Murphy's just dropped down into the 2:14 second bracket again, a 2:14.74. The gap between him and Dick Johnson, 38 seconds now.
You would love to drop down to a 2:14 second mark. You would think you were Mr. Captain Marvel and Superman put together. It's doing a 2:14, a drop down. A little ease off might have been the word.
No, I mean, he dropped down to the 15-second bracket down to the 14. He's even going faster.
Ah, you're ahead of me. I'm sorry.
The difficulty at this stage of the day, I would say, for some drivers, Charlie O'Brien, is just concentration because it is a difficult day. There have been lots of dramas, lots of things to distract your attention, but this is the one time you can't afford to be distracted.
No, you can't. We'll go like the track is very, very dirty offline, and that just brings on so much more concentration. You have to have your wits about you. 35 laps or something to go, thereabouts. Not far because you've been out there so long, but it is still a long way, and so many things can happen in those last 10 or 20 laps.
Peter Dillman and John Cotter in car number 29. We had a look at them before. Former class winners, as we've said, in a BMW here at Bathurst some years ago, have tackled the big league with consistency, not dramatic success, but always circulating and just having a lot of fun, these guys who are Sydney-based. As we see the second Sega entry coming in, Gary Walden piloting it to a stop. There will be a driver change. Here's Richard Hay.
Thanks, Wilco, and it's not a usual thing to find a Gibson Motorsport car running this far down, as in fact both of them are. They're both running in 7th and 8th places at the moment, but Walden is out of the car, Noske is in. We're used to seeing Gibson right at the front, and a pad change taking place at the front as well, which is going to slow things down even further. They've been having a little sort of private battle with the Tommy Kendall Stephen Johnson car almost race long, this pairing, and things look to be all underway at the front. Brett Gibson controlling things there. Engine running. This wheel's back on. There's still work going on the other side, though, and the windscreen being cleaned. There we go. All the hands go up in the air to signal everything's done, and back into the race.
Whoop. Well, they've had their misadventures, McLeod, father and son, and they've got another one on their hands here in the NZ car number 50 entry.
It's a great disappointment for this team. They came here with high hopes. The ex-Holden Racing team car actually ran here in the 1994 Bathurst 1000 with Lowndes and Jones aboard. They've graded it to VR specification. Poured a lot of time and effort into it, but really hasn't worked out for them today at Mount Panorama.
McLeod's doing a great job there. He's driving around the track offline and not dropping into that oil on there, so it doesn't create any problems for the faster cars, so it's a good job.
Peter McLeod has known the glory days, of course, the 48-year-old from Wollongong. He former Bathurst winner here with Peter Brock back in 1987, so he knows what it feels like.
Uh-oh, somebody's had a spin there coming out of Murray's corner. Car 79 in trouble again as we check the top 10. The leading car, number 1, Greg Murphy, Craig Lowndes, HRT Commodore. From 17, Dick Johnson, John Bausch, Shell FAI Falcon. Third place, car number 25, Longhurst and Ellery, the Castrol Falcon. Fourth is car number 7, Gardner Crompton, the Coca-Cola Commodore. Brock Mazzero, 05 for HRT in 5th position. Car number 11, the Castrol Perkins Commodore is in 6th position. Then car number 6, Scaife and Felland in 7th position. Walden, Noske holding down 8th. Johnson, Kendall 9th, and Needswitz and Douglas in the Synovus Falcon entry, rounding out the top 10 at this stage of the great race. 127 laps down.